Hi, it's so nice to meet you. I am really excited today to talk to you about Spencer. He is such a joy to have in our classroom, and I'm really excited to just kind of collaborate with you and see maybe some things that you've heard about at home that are working, that he enjoys at class, or maybe some things that you want to focus on to help him. That's really the purpose of this entire meet, is just to see kind of where Spencer's at and what we can do to help him become even better than he is right now. He is, like I said, such a joy to have in our classroom. And one of the reasons is because he just really cares about people. That's one thing that is great to have, is when someone's like crying or not feeling well, he's one of the first people to go and talk to them and try to make them feel better. He also brings a nice kind of artistic feel to our classroom. There was a solid week that he had a picture that he drew of Dogman posted around the room. And I imagine he might have gotten it from you, because he's shown me the SpongeBob impressions you've drawn on his lunch bag, which the kids love, and they're actually really good, so good job. But it was really cool because this Dogman picture that he drew moved around the classroom, and it actually sparked a lot of the students' interest. And so as they saw this picture, it made them wonder where it came from, and they asked him about it. And then I have a couple, like a solid 3 or 4 students that are actually reading Dogman now because of his great artistic ability in drawing it, and it really sparked their interest. And so it's really increasing their literacy, or their ability to read and write. And that's kind of like the focus that we're going to have today in this parent-teacher conference. I really want to discuss some of the things that I saw through the assessments that I've done the past couple weeks and months with Spencer. These assessments include just comprehension. I just asked him a few questions after he read me a story to make sure he understood it, as well as like a spelling test. There was also another assessment that I did that specifically worked on like if he was able to know rhyming words, and really just all these different tests just help me to see where he's at, understand maybe things that he's excelling in, and some of the things that I want to work with him better. Assessments are really there to help me to tweak my teaching so that he can learn more fully. One thing I really want to start off with, like, his strengths. Spencer is amazing at retelling a story, which means he comprehends the text perfectly. So he'll read me a story, and then I'll just ask him what happens, and he can tell me what happens at the beginning, what happens in the middle, what happens at the end. He can tell me about the characters. It's really amazing how much he remembers in just one read-through. And as we help support this comprehension, one of the things that I'm going to do is actually ask him even more deeper questions. So if he's like, I don't know, like if I ask him like, well, how'd the character feel in that situation? Or how would you feel if you were the character? Things that will really help him kind of dig deep to try to connect with the text. And that way it will become even more of an experience, but also be able to help him to understand what happened in a more, in a more intensive way than just rattling off what he remembers, memorizing the book. And also, another thing that I'm going to do specifically in our classroom more is to set a purpose for why we're reading. I think if students have a reason to read a text, then they'll have more of a desire to get something from it, and they'll be able to understand it more fully because they have a purpose in reading it. And that's something that you can actually do at home too. When you sit down with him and you read a story, you can ask him, why are you reading this? Or what do you want to get out of this? And that will help him to be able to just comprehend the text better because he has a reason to read it. Also, as you're reading with him, don't be afraid to ask him questions. Really help him to put himself in the character's shoes and help him to even visualize it. You can ask him, close your eyes, try to think about what it would feel like if you're in this situation, or try to picture the woods in this story and what does it look like to you. And that way he'll really be able to comprehend and internalize and become just immersed in the story, which will really help his comprehension, his ability to understand the story, just grow. Another thing that he's amazing at is writing complete sentences. He writes complete sentences, and then he writes them all on topic. I want to show you this piece that he wrote the other day. As you can see, he wrote about y'all's cat. And as he wrote, he made sure that they all connected to his cat. He talked about what it looks like, what it likes to do. And he even said that for Halloween he wants to dress it up as Pikachu, which I thought was awesome. And that is something that's really impressive as a second grader, to be able to write multiple sentences that are just all connected to the same thing. And so something that I want to help him in writing these different sentences is to really just praise how well he's doing in writing sentences on topic. And so one way that I plan to do that is by a reading chair. So just during writing time, I'm going to be able to allow him, if he's comfortable and if he wants to, which I feel like he will, to sit down and sit in our reader's chair. It's just over there, you see, it's just a regular chair, but he will become an author when he's sitting in that chair. And he'll be able to read his story to the rest of the class. And any of the students that want to listen will be able to hear it. And I think that will help him grow an identity as an author and be able to help him to feel comfortable in sharing his writing. He's brought in multiple stories from home that he's actually written about Minecraft and Dogman, and kind of like merging different stories. And I think it's wonderful that you encourage that and you allow him time and the opportunity to write stories. That's something that you can continue to encourage at home. But if he does he ask you about like what he should write about or kind of how it's going? Yeah? Awesome. Well, that's another thing you can do is when he writes his stories, usually I see they have like one sentence on each page. And maybe you can encourage him to include more sentences. The more sentences he'll have, the more of a story he'll have, but also he'll be able to have to keep them on topic in order to match the picture that he draws with it. So this will kind of help him reach that next level of writing stories, writing sentences on topic, but even writing more so that it develops more of a story, more of an understanding for the reader. And I think that will help him as you just recognize how well he's writing at home, and also as you encourage him to write even more. That will just help him be able to feel like, I can do it, and I can do hard things, and it will encourage him to be a great writer. And lastly, I really wanted to talk about just how well he did on his rhyming assessment. In this assessment, I just I read off different words that rhymes or don't rhyme. So I could say, need and bead, do those rhyme? Yes. Okay, does need and shoe rhyme? And he says, no. And he got all of them right. It was amazing. And there was one he was confused about, and he went back and he was like, no, that definitely rhymes. And so he got all of them right. And that is kind of just a skill that I don't think we often recognize. And it's something that I want to encourage, because being able to rhyme is definitely a skill. And so something that I want to do is I want to introduce him and show him different ways or different literature that includes these type of words. So I want to, during read alouds, I want to include different words with poetry. And I want to, maybe even at the library, if he asks me, oh, what kind of book do you think I should get, I will go towards the children's books, the picture books that have rhyming words in them, and encourage him to be able to pick them out and to be able to notice them. When you are able to rhyme words, it's all about having vocabulary to know which word you should use to rhyme it, to make a story. And so that's something I can also do, is to encourage his vocabulary. I was thinking, one way that you could help him with this vocabulary and be able to think about more rhyming words and how they work and interact with each other is actually just while you're maybe in the grocery line of a store or in the car going somewhere, you can play a little game. And in this game, you will say a word. Let's say it's bed. And then he has to come up with a rhyming word, like shed. And then you have to think of another one, like red. And you'll go back and forth until you can't think of any more words to rhyme. And it could be either way, you're just trying to count how many you together can come up with, or maybe it's a competition, like see if he can get more than you or you more than him. And that will really help him start thinking about it and recognizing it. And his ability to rhyme will be able to even increase. Like I said, he has really a great desire to become better. And so I think these little tidbits, these little things that we can do to encourage these wonderful skills that he already has will help him to be able to feel accomplished and feel successful as he continues to grow in these different areas. One thing that I did want to talk about was also his is when he reads out loud. I've noticed that when he was reading out loud in one of our assessments, that he often misplaced words or even kind of like scammed over the words. And they're usually big words that he didn't know and he didn't necessarily understand. So I was thinking that's something that we want to work on together and something that I think we could help improve at school as well as at home. And so the first thought I thought of is those words that are big that he's kind of skimming over, he's ignoring. I think that I can help him specifically with that by building his vocabulary. We'll talk about different words and be able to talk about what they mean. I'll also be able to teach him just different techniques in breaking down these big words. So I'll talk about, okay, what's the first half? Okay, what's the second half? All right, now let's put it together, or sound it out, or even the idea that just to kind of see if it makes sense, and talk about how he needs to be able to have that word in order to have the story make sense. Another thing that would be helpful at home even is to be able to read at night with him and encourage him to not skip over those words. You might notice, because I noticed a few times in our assessments, that he'll actually replace a word that he just skims over, or maybe he just doesn't recognize it, and with a different word. So for a really simple example, he'll say like, the dog ran, instead of what the text says, which is the puppy ran. So it's interesting, and I think that's why his comprehension is so good, is because he's still, even if he's making mistakes while he reads, they're usually mistakes that make sense in the story. They make sense in the sentence and how they're in the words he's replacing, and just overall the connection, the comprehension still works with the words he's using. And so if you're at home reading with him, another thing that you can do is just to, if he says the wrong word, just ask him, after he finishes the page, to go back and read it again. If you notice he uses the same word again, the wrong word, then you should point it out to him. That way he can just be like, oh, okay, I messed up. Also, if he totally skips over, like he says the correct word the second time, then he's good. He just made a little mistake. And that's kind of what I want to pinpoint, is help him raise his awareness that he's either skipping over words or he's misplacing words. Because I'm not sure if he's noticing that he's doing it. And so if we can increase his vocabularies and his comprehension strategies so he isn't afraid of those big words to skip over them, like consciously, but also help him unconsciously recognize it, it will really help him increase the amount of words that he's able to read correctly and fully. Another thing that I really want to focus on is to be able to talk about with him and encourage his spelling. His spelling is, right now, he's really good at writing the first letter of the word and the last letter of the word, but if there's any letters that kind of blend together, then he often he just misspells it. And so this includes words like shower, because the SH make a different sound, or let's say blend, even, because the BL, they kind of are smushed together, so he doesn't hear every single letter. So one thing that we're going to really do is, while he's writing, I have those times where I sit down with him and I talk about how it's going, and we look at his writing and talk about what he wants to do to make it better. And I will point out to him the word wall that we have. You can see it's over here. And it has all these different words that we've talked about during the year. And I will encourage him to look at it while he's writing so that he can write the specific words. The more he practices the words, the more he'll be able to understand them, remember them, and memorize them. Because sometimes it just takes a lot of practice. Another thing that I want to do is just give him that direct explicit instruction. I'll sit down with him and talk about how certain words, how we have to sound out everything if it's a blend, or how they make those sounds. So like the have the TH sound, and how it's different than actually spelling it out, or sounding it out. And that will help him also be able to recognize that there are words, and how kind of words work and letters work to make just meaning in his sentences and his stories. And also, I know this might sound tedious or maybe even frustrating sometimes, but when he's writing at home, I'd really encourage you to answer the question, how do you spell this? Or how do you spell that? And that will really help him to, just like I said, practice spelling words correctly. And it will also help him see that to you it's important to spell. That spelling is something that we all need to be able to do, and that since it's important to you, it will then become important to him as you help him spell better. And like I said, Spencer is a wonderful kid, and it's such a great time being able to see him to grow and learn, and just really just working with him is such a pleasure. And I'm really grateful that he's in our class, and I'm thankful that I get to be able to work with him in such a close proximity, and I'm really excited to be able to see his growth, especially on these things we've talked about today. Like I said, you're more than welcome to ever email me or to text me. Let me know if you ever have any questions, and also let me know his progress. I would love to see just how much you're seeing that these different strategies are helping him. So thanks for coming in today, and yeah, let me know if you ever need anything.